Okay, so today's presentation is called Moments of Health, and I am super excited to introduce our speaker today, Jean Marie Scordino. Jean Marie.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you those who are here. Glad to see you all. And we were joking before. It's like, how many of you have 30 people sitting in the room with you? Because it is nice to do things when you can have other people with you. It gives you that kind of accountability partner. As Tracy said, my name is Jean Marie, and I am an exercise physiologist and a clinical health coach here at Baycare. And I am very, very fortunate and blessed that I get to work with our behavioral health team on many different projects. And they generally ask me to come at least once a year to do one of these talks to share some of my passions. And I love looking at the holistic well-being of an individual, how we interface with the mind, the body, and the spirit in order to create a wellness path that is uniquely individual to each person. And that's my goal in life. And I love to be able to share my passion on that. And one of my big ones that I'm working on now is this concept of moments of health. So I want to welcome you all for taking a moment out of your day to be here with us, but also to kind of open up your minds to some of the things I'm saying. Nothing is going to be earth shattering, but hopefully I get you to kind of look at something that maybe you think about often in a little different direction. Because real change rarely starts with big promises and dramatic plans. Real change starts with one small, sometimes tiny, doable step. Something that is so manageable that success cannot be denied. It is unlikely to do anything but succeed. And when we take actions that we know that we can complete, we build trust within ourselves, and that trust becomes a foundation for long-term lasting changes. So instead of trying to fix everything at once, we start to layer one new tiny step, one new habit onto the next, something that we already live. So one healthy choice added to an existing routine, one moment of awareness in the middle of your already crazy or normal day. And these small actions, they add up quickly and they help to shape who we become, and they help to guide us down a healthy path. So progress doesn't need to be fast to be real. It doesn't always need to be perfect. What it needs to do is moving slowly and steadily along so it has a time to stick, because one step at a time is probably the strongest way forward. I have been doing this for a very long time, and those people who take those ginormous steps or decide they're going to make these huge goals usually fall back quickly. My joke always is, it is better to walk for 5 minutes than to think about running a 5K. Your body's going to see so much more of that. So what is it that I can do to make sure that I'm taking care of myself? So today is all about those small moments that can support our health all year long. I have a cute little grid that I made. My computer forwards, there we go. My fun little list. You're going to see this again, but just to give you some small ideas of what some doable changes are. You know, we have to drink water. How do we maybe add that to our day? Moving our body, we'll talk about that. Sleep, um, eating real food. Again, I told you I'm an exercise physiologist and a clinical health coach, so I'm not going to be coming at you from an RDN perspective, but we will talk about that. Putting down your phone sometimes, if I can find that digital media there. Get outside. Most of us live here in Florida, so that breathing, stand up goes with my moving parts. Consistency. You'll hear me repeating that all along. It's about being consistent. Doesn't mean we have to be perfect. Doesn't mean we won't step off the path sometimes, but the more consistent we are, the more it becomes a pattern in our lives. And then laugh often. Laughter is so important. And if you take nothing else away from here today, to figure out one way that you can laugh more, not only does it work your core, because those muscles work, laughing uses more facial muscles going on. It releases a cascade of all these positive hormones. It helps to stimulate the vagus nerve, which I'll mention. So just laughing alone helps to reduce stress, increase your feelings of happiness and well-being, and even reduces your risk of depression and anxiety. So you know what? You can find one thing on that list. So we're going to dive in to moments of health. As I mentioned, when we think about making change, we often believe we need to do something big something grandiose in order to see big results. We tell ourselves that I need to change this, I need to change my habits, my routines, even who I am sometimes. This becomes overwhelming and people give up before we begin. We are in February now, and a lot of people back, about a little over a month ago, decided to make some big plans because they made their New Year's resolutions. I'm not going to ask any of you to tell me if you made any, and I'm not going to ask any of you to tell me if you're already done with them. Again, being in the health and wellness world, I know usually by mid-February, 90% of New Year's resolutions are out the window. You see this big influx of people going into the gym, usually starts about the second week of January because everyone's getting over the holidays. And then about midway through February, that drops off significantly. And that's because people decide, I'm going to the gym every day, 5 days a week for an hour. And then when they miss it once or twice, they go, I failed, and they go back to doing what they were doing before. If we can stop that and change our thought pattern into finding something that I can feel successful with, I'm going to be able to keep with it. And if I can make that lasting change, it doesn't start big. It starts small. So when I figure out what that small doable step is, and just because I mentioned the gym, I am going to say for the next week, I am going to try and get into the gym twice. That's all I'm going to put on myself. I want to go twice. I didn't say I had to be there an hour. I didn't even say I had to do anything, but I'm going to get to the gym twice. But then I'm going to ask myself, how successful do I feel I can do that? On a scale of 1 to 10, how successful do I feel? 1, I'm never going to make it there. 10, I feel pretty confident that I'm going to make it there twice with no problem. Now, I did give you a very simplistic goal, but maybe I have a crazy schedule, and even putting something on my calendar twice a week may be a little overwhelming. And I say that, oh, this is only a 4. I don't know if I can get there twice, especially this week. I got so many things going on. I'm going to step back and I'm going to rethink that goal and say, hey, maybe this week I'm just going to get there once. And just so I get in the door and start to make that connection. Or I might say, twice isn't so bad. I can do that. That's kind of like a 9 for me. If I can get an 8, 9, or a 10 in my mind that I feel that I can be successful with this, then I'm going to go ahead and go with that. Because if you have that, it's something your brain won't resist. It won't say, no, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to have that. And then when I succeed with that, and I went twice, my body goes, I can do that. My brain goes, I trust that this is something I can do. And all of a sudden that trust helps to create momentum. So instead of trying to overhaul my whole life and doing that, I'm going to layer a change into what already exists. On my way home from work, I'm going to try and stop by the gym twice. Or before I go to work, I'm going to go to the gym twice. Or maybe it's on the weekend, I'm going to go Saturday and Sunday to the gym. And that's what's going to start to get me into those habits. So we want to figure out the different things that we can do, those little moments of health. I talked about exercise and movement. Maybe the thought of moving or going to a gym is going, I have a 0 that I'm ever going to step foot into a gym. I don't want to do that. I don't even want to think about movement. I feel like that's not the area I want to be. There are other places that we can step into our health and wellness plan from. And that's what I want to kind of be exploring today. And one of them is just, what are we putting into our body? My very first one on that list was drink more water. We tend to drink a lot of our calories and other beverages, and our body needs a lot of water in order to function optimally. You need a minimum of 8 glasses of water. And yes, that can come from other beverages and foods to get that water. But a lot of times when we're hungry or we're stressed and we're putting food into our body, if we were to pause and say, hey, let me take a drink of water first, and make that my go-to instead of grabbing for something else, I'm going to be doing something that's healthier for myself. So I never take things away. I always add things. So instead of saying I'm not going to drink any more soda, or if you're a coffee drinker, I'm not going to have any more coffee, I might say before I have my first cup of coffee, I am going to have a glass of water. So the first thing I do in the morning is just hydrate my system and get at least a glass of water. And then I'm going to have my cup of coffee. Or I know there are people who drink soda in the morning. You can kind of do that. The thing with adding that positive is sometimes the negatives kind of fall off without you even needing to worry about that. So think about how I can make one tiny little change in order to help. Another good one we're going to talk about is taking one deep breath before we react. You know, a lot of times we need to de-escalate a situation. Someone might frustrate us, or an activity might frustrate us. I was telling Tracy earlier, my daughter was so kind and bought me a really cool new mouse for Christmas. And I loved it and it was going great. And yesterday or Monday, I was doing a call and my computer just froze. I could not get the cursor to move anywhere. And I was getting so annoyed. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with my computer? So I'm blaming the computer. I'm going to have to restart the computer. The frustration is building, you know, the amygdala is going. I'm getting into that kind of anxious state. And I go, wait. And I stopped. And I just took a couple of breaths to kind of calm my system, calm the escalation I was going to. And I went, oh, you know what? I bet I need new batteries in my mouse because it's new. I go, it seems really quick because I've only had it since December. And oh, geez. So I look at my mouse to go look to where I put the batteries in and find out that it is not one that has batteries. It's one I need to charge. So like your phone. So I decided that instead of being mad at my new mouse that you know, I've had since Christmas, and that the battery got run down so quickly, because I took that moment to de-escalate and not get myself into that excited state, I was able to use that breath to say, oh, it's charged. This really has a pretty long charge life because I've been using it since December and it didn't fail until February. So a lot of times it changes our perspective if we can step back for a second, take a breath or two, get some oxygen into the system. So going back to that idea of instead of overhauling, let's think what we can do to make one little change. Health and well-being are not an all or nothing situation. One good choice during the day does not erase a very hard day or poor choices. Just as one hard day or misstep does not erase your progress that you had. Consistency is what matters more than perfection. So confidence comes before we build intensity. We want to make something feel stable. We want to build on it. We want to get that slow, steady progress. That's not failure. That's how change sticks. That's how change lasts. So stop asking what's the biggest change I can make to get me to where I need to be, and start asking yourself, what is the smallest, most doable step that I am confident that I can do right now? And then repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And that's going to make a permanent, long-lasting change. So I love the concept of a snack. We all know what taking a nutrition snack is. I'm going to have an apple, or I'll have a handful of nuts, or something along that lines. We want to introduce some nutrients into my body, a quick bite, so that I can fuel my system. But I love the concept of movement snacks. And if you happen to have heard me before, this is something that I talk about all the time. So I talk about movement snacks as these small, short, intentional spurts of movement that help to support our overall well-being. There's something that's going to help my body to move optimally and to help create circulation and reduce stress. And then I also love the idea of mental snacks. What's a quick little nervous system reset? Like I said before, when I was stressed at my computer and ready to throw it across the room, I said, pause, and I took a couple of breaths so I could de-escalate that. So both of them are short. I want something that is 10 seconds to 10 minutes, and 10 minutes are long ones. They're easy to do, something I feel confident to doing. Generally, I can do it without having to have anything else with me. They fit into my real life, which varies for the different people here. And there's no special clothing or accessories that are needed for it. So to get us started, we're going to start with a movement snack. So a movement snack, again, is that 10 seconds to 10 minutes of movement that is going to help to build on repairing a sphere of function. Because when I was born, I had a huge sphere of function around my body that I could move and I could reach. So think about standing inside a big beach ball. And when I do that, I'm going to be able to improve how my body moves. I want to counterbalance what I'm doing too much of. So think about our sphere of function. What do we all do too much of? We sit and gravity pulls us forward. So we're doing a lot of this forward flex or sitting where everything is kind of contracting and coming up and in. So I want to counterbalance that, which means I want to extend, but I also want to do things that are going to help take me side to side and rotating. And I'm going to put a little asterisk in here because there's some people go, oh, my doctor told me never to rotate. They're telling you not to rotate at the spine, but we want to teach you how to rotate when you're doing stuff at the pelvis, so that if you think about your pelvis turning, very little motion is going on at your spine. So you're not going to be grating on your spine if you have anything like that. The other thing we want to do is help ourselves to be better at what we need to and want to do. I all want to raise of hands. Who wants to walk when they're 90? I'm going to stand here until one person raises their hand in the little chat. Okay, got one. We all want to walk when we're 90. We all want to be able to cross the street. We all want to be able to turn our head when we're driving. So all of these things that we want to be able to do. I want to be able to play with my grandchildren or my children. I want to be able to go out and swing a golf club. I want to be able to walk up the stairs so I can go to the theater. You know, think about the physical things that you want to do in your life. What can I do to help myself be better at those things? So I want to help myself with that. And we want to think about moving in all the different directions. So in order to kind of see that and sense that, I'm going to have you put your hands above your head if you don't have a shoulder problem. If not, you can keep your hands lower. And you can sit, or if you want to, for more fun, you can stand up with me. And I'm going to tell you right now, sound effects make everything better. And I'm going to explain more about those later. But if you stand up and put your hands above your head, I'm just going to have you rock back and forth. So you'll feel the weight on your feet shift from your toes to your heels, and your pelvis comes front and back. And we're going to go. Awesome. Now, as if you're standing in a door frame, your hips are going to slide left and right, and we're going to go. Awesome. Hands come down shoulder height. In that room that I know that there's a couple of people in there, don't smack the person next to you unless they deserve it. Shoulders relax. Starting the motion at the pelvis, we're going to go. Awesome. You just moved in all three directions. We went front and back, which if you want to take a test later on is the sagittal plane. We went side to side, which is the frontal plane. And then we rotated in that transverse plane. So we went in all the different motions. And if you were to see a beach ball around you, you could see how you were meeting that. And we can do things with the legs too. So that's what we're kind of looking for with this, is figuring out how I can make some motions. I don't need to change clothes unless you're a stiletto wearing, or I would say slip off the stilettos. But other than that, you can do this in anything you're in. So I talked about that we tend to be very tight in our thoracic spine. So one of my favorite movement snacks, which can be done sitting or standing, is to take your right hand and just reach it across in front of you and your left hand above your head. So with that right hand, I'm going to do that and just kind of turn my hips and my arms coming around. And I'm going to keep my eyes forward because I'll get a little neck rotation. And now hang out with the hand over there. And then the hand above our head is going to go. Now, I really like to do this in a room of live people because it's more fun for me to watch. We're going to do both together. Awesome. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So you're going to put the arm across and up. So we'll go. Over the top, both together. How did that feel? It should have felt great. You should have felt this flush of oxygen to the brain because it did flow that. If you're ever feeling tired, that's kind of an exciting one for that. It kind of gets that feeling going. It's just a simple movement. And I actually have some of these videoed, and I will get them to Tracy that she can share with anyone who would like them. A number of different movements next. But it really is just thinking about that motion. I didn't count. It doesn't say, oh, we have to do 10 of these. There is no magic in the number 10. I think I actually did 4 on one side and 3 on the other. It may not be perfectly balanced. You know, it's just to do them to feel good. The sound effects have a couple of reasons. One is the very first slide I showed you, the very bottom was laughter. I tend to get a giggle when I do that laughter. So it helps to release some good hormones into the body, makes us feel a little joyful, gets a little bit more belly action going. So it releases those happy hormones there. It tends to have people remember them. You know, you crazy lady with the sound effects. You go, oh yeah, I remember her doing those. And then the last one, and to me it was kind of one of my favorites. I like to sneak in a little neurophysiology with you, because I am an exercise physiologist and I study neurophysiology, is our vagus nerve, which starts at our brain. It's one of our 12 cranial nerves, and it wanders through the body, and it touches your vocal cords, it touches your lungs, your heart, your kidneys, your bladder, your pelvis, your sexual organs. It touches everything basically from our head to our pubic bone. The vagus nerve is the opposite of the fight or flight response. So when the amygdala, which you've probably heard about before, sends off that fight or flight, the vagus nerve is one of the important components to putting the rest and reset, rest and relax, safety, all of that. So when I can stimulate the vagus nerve, they call it giving it tone, I actually put my body in a safety feeling, and it gives trust to what's going on. And when I do sound effects, I actually stimulate it because I'm vibrating my vocal cords, which help to stimulate that vagus nerve to kind of click on to help to make myself feel safer. So that's some of the reasons I do. But a movement snack is anything that's going to counterbalance what you're doing. Even if you just get up and shake, take a little tiny walk around your office, reach your arms, swing your arms in different directions, purposely reach, do the same motion. You can't see my feet right now, but if I stepped forward or back, side to side, all of those are considered a movement snack. And beyond what I just told you, they help circulation. They're getting blood and oxygen and nutrients through the system. They are cleaning out waste products and stress hormones. They are helping to reduce any stiffness and tension you have. They're increasing your energy and your focus because it actually stimulates your brain. It supports emotional well-being by flooding the body with the positive hormones, but also helping to allow you to be more in that rest state as opposed to the fight or flight knee-jerk reaction. Even light movement signals the body that they are safe and supported. So a movement snack is a great thing to do throughout the day. And if you can put in 3, 4, 5 different little movement snacks, again, I'm talking 10 seconds to 10 minutes, you could probably add some movement throughout your day, better circulation throughout the day, and overall health and well-being. So you want to layer these in. I love doing movement snacks when I'm brushing my teeth, so I'm layering them into toothbrushing, or after I've gone to the bathroom and I wash my hands, I might do one while I'm doing that. After I finish a phone call, I'd usually do a little movement snack after that. For my job, I have to do a fair amount of data entry. So every time I finish a block of time, I will do a couple of things where I do some extension and some side bending just to help to take me away and bring me back. So it's not walking away for 30 minutes, but by taking these moments to pause and to do something healthy for my body, it actually makes my brain and my physical body function so much better. So you get to choose what you do. So remember, pick what you like to do. As we do these mental snacks, these are things that are going to help to elicit a better emotional well-being, because stress is not just mental, it's physical. And the nervous system responds before we can actually consciously feel stressed. So we feel stress a lot of times like the butterflies or a gut reaction. And that's not a weakness. That's our nervous system communicating to us. These are not random sensations, they're messages. And what we need to do is notice them over time. And when we gain that insight, before we let stress take over, we can take that moment to pause and give us more awareness and more choice and more regulation. So mental snacks help us to shift out of that stress mode, improve our clarity, and then with a few seconds of taking that intentional breathing, a stretch, something that's going to help to ground me, I can reset my nervous system. So the gut-brain axis. When our gut is off, our brain is off. And we want to kind of think about that biology being real and that we're seeing what's going on, because a lot of our serotonin and our healthy, happy hormones get created in our gut. So when we start to weave these mental snacks into our day, we can make a big, heavy hit on our overall health and well-being. This is going back to what I was mentioning with the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight response where my body is going, I've got to be ready for this. And we need that. That's an important factor to have. But it's going to up everything and excite everything and give tension. A lot of times we want that parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. And this is where that vagus nerve plays a big role in calming things down so that I can rest and repair. I've mentioned a couple of times how breathing is one of the best activities that we can do to kind of align that. And I always like to just remind people that, we want to make sure we're being thoughtful about our breaths. We get hurrying on in life, and a lot of us become chest breathers, which means we're raising our shoulders up and down as we're doing that. So we want to make sure we kind of calm that a little bit and take that tension out of our shoulders, which we're not designed to do that, and make sure our breathing is coming down from our diaphragm. And that's as if you put your hands on the bottom of your rib cage. I'm going to have you all just take a breath in through your nose and think about that rib cage opening up. And then when you blow the air back up, you feel that rib cage coming back down again. So we want to kind of find times to practice that, because when we sit a lot, or we've had some injuries, or maybe you've had children, all of that pushes us up into that chest breathing. So when I can find a couple times throughout the day, maybe when I'm sitting in my car in traffic, or when I'm going to bed at night, and just focus on some mindful breaths, I can start making it more second nature. I can make that mental reset for me. So the other thing is to make your exhales twice as long, possibly, as your inhales. When I have a longer exhale, and it doesn't have to be exactly twice, a longer exhale, it calms my system. So if you are trying to de-stress or kind of calm your mind, if you breathe in for 4 and out for 8 or 6, it's very beneficial. If you are sitting at your desk and you're feeling exhausted and you can't focus very well, flip it around. Breathe in for longer, so 6, and breathe out quickly. So, and that kind of excites the system, which sometimes we need. So I'm going to have us do 2 thoughtful breaths. I want you to think about, and I'll talk you through it, breathing in for 4 and out for 8. I'm going to give you a little key here. Is a lot of times when we try and blow out for 8, a lot of people who haven't practiced that before, they blow out and all their air is gone by 3 or 4, and then they hold their breath till we get to 8. So I want you to think about just slowly releasing that air. So inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. How did that feel? If you said my counting was off, it was more because I was using my talking as a couple of accounts. A lot of times it only takes 2 to 4 breaths and you can reset your whole system. You flood your brain with oxygen. You're also, when you flood your brain with oxygen, nutrients are coming in there and it pushes out any of the waste products, any of those stress hormones. So it helps to kind of cleanse the system, which is why it does such a great job of calming us down. The other thing is if I am mindful and focused on what's going on, then I am not thinking about something else, because my brain can only do one thing at a time. There is no such thing as multitasking. It's just switching back and forth quickly between things. So if I can take my focus and focus it on one thing, hopefully a positive thing, I am going to be able to also get that sensory reset. So if I focus on my breath, I'm not going to be thinking about something else that's going on, because mindfulness is not clearing out the brain, it's being intentional. So I love a little game called a sensory reset. Different times you're going to say, what are 3 things I see? Maybe I go outside and walk for a minute. I'm looking at the green trees. Maybe I see a dog walking by. Maybe I see a pretty flower or someone's painting their house. I'm focusing in and being intentional on what I'm seeing. What do I feel on that same walk? I feel the wind against my skin, or I feel my foot roll off the edge of the curb because I've turned to look at something else. I feel it was cold outside, so I feel that coldness, or I feel the gloves against my fingers because I am a wimp and I did have mittens on during some of these cold days. What do I hear? The rustling of the leaves, a dog barking in the back. I have chickens down the block from us. Do I hear the chickens cluck? All of these things help to ground my attention and pull me into the moment. So when I feel like I'm a little bit out of control, I can stop and refocus on what I'm doing. So small choices make a lasting impact. When I am thinking about what to do, all of you know the area that you kind of struggle with, whether it's you sit too much or you tend to fly off the handle, you get a little aggravated and you feel a little anxious and stressed a little bit more. Or maybe I'm mindlessly eating all the time. I kind of stress eat and I go with that. Think about today, what's one thing you can change? What is one thing that you have a choice to do? Because you don't need to, have to, or should do anything. You get to choose how you spend your time. You get to choose what you would like to do. And these small intentional choices repeated help to shape us over time. So going back to my list from the beginning, do I need to drink more water? Do I maybe need to kind of layer that in before I have that sugary drink, or before I have that caffeine in the morning, or before I go grab for something to eat that might not be as healthy? Let me take a drink of water first. Let me hydrate my body. Or when I brush my teeth, or when I get home from work, before I sit down or start cooking dinner or start doing all this, let me do a moment or two of movement to kind of calm my body down. And if I've been hunched over all day, do something that's going to help expand my body. Am I not sleeping well? Am I rushing things in? Am I constantly scrolling on my phone? Maybe I'm going to think about putting my phone down 15, 20, 30 minutes before bedtime so that I can get a better full night's sleep. You know, if I'm only sleeping 5 hours a night, how can I maybe add 15 more minutes? Again, small doable steps. If you're sleeping 5 hours, I'm not going to ask you to sleep 8. What can I do to give myself 15 more minutes of sleep? What can I do to make a cleaner nighttime routine? What's that one small, quick little doable step that I can do? Get outside more. Fresh air, oxygen, and greenery have been shown in research study after research study to improve our overall mental well-being. At lunchtime, step away from the computer. If you're at home or in office, step outside. Even if it's just for a couple of minutes, it does help to build more resiliency in our body. Be consistent. Don't feel you have to be perfect. If you miss a day, it's okay. If you miss 2 days, it's okay. Just continue going on and laugh often, because the more we laugh, it helps to put us in a frame of mind that helps us be positive and grateful as we step forward. So again, I told you in the beginning, this was not rocket science. I'm not bringing you stuff that you probably have never heard of, but I'm hoping I've reframed the things that you know about. You know, I'm not going to get rid of eating cookies, but maybe I'm going to add one more vegetable to my day. I am not going to get rid of video games, but I am going to stand up after I win everyone and do a little dance before I sit back down again. What's the smallest, simplest thing that I can do today in order to move myself down that path of health and well-being? So I want to thank you for spending this time with me. I know it was quick, but I like to at least kind of give you a smattering of different things to do. And the key really is consistency. And what do you feel confident in doing? Because you can do it and you can start today.